Thank you for participating in this short film. I want to remind you that this is a digital camera recording, so if you feel tongue-tied or stumble and want to start over, that's fine. We will ask some fairly broad questions and then get more specific as we focus on the parental part of your story. Your life is big and full of experiences, but since we are focusing on the experience of motherhood, we will get a little more of your backstory and then talk in more detail about parenthood.
Okay.
Can you please begin by telling me about your experience of raising children?
My experience raising children has been mostly really great. I really love being a mom. I've been doing it for a very long time. As a lot of things, it's not what you expect in some ways, but it's also just been really wonderful.
Okay. How about we start at the beginning? Maybe when you first discovered you were pregnant with your oldest. What do you remember about this period of time in your life?
So my oldest is named Audrey, and she is 24 years old now. And so I was 21 when I had her, which is very young, but we wanted to have a baby. We were still in college, but graduating. I was going to graduate in the next couple months. So the timing worked out. My husband was going to go to graduate school, but we just wanted to start our family. So we were trying to have a baby, and I just remember when I found out I was pregnant, I was so excited. Definitely teared up a little bit, just like couldn't believe that it was actually happening. And yeah, what else did you say in that question?
What do you remember about this period of time in your life? I feel like you already said that.
Okay.
What do you think were the greatest challenges for you?
With the first, or with
with any, I guess?
With the first, the first couple was really hard because we just didn't have very much money. So Brad was in graduate school when we had Audrey, and then Tyler. And so it was still really great and wonderful, but it was also very stressful because money was just really, really tight. But to Brad and I, it was both really important that I be able to stay home with the kids. And also my degree was in social work, which isn't a big money maker anyway. So working and paying for daycare would have been not even worth it. So we just lived really simple and really tight, but it was fun. Brad went to graduate school in Buffalo, New York. He got his PhD there, and there were a lot of other graduate students there in our church. And so we had a really good community there, lots of other people having kids. And so it was like hard to be so tight on money constantly. But it was also easier because we had a lot of people who were in similar situations, and we all could rely on each other. And I remember clipping coupons to spend as little on groceries as possible, and never going on dates, never having date nights, never eating out, just living in as cheap an apartment as we could find, having one older car that we just hoped would keep going. So that was definitely a big challenge with the first couple kids, and also just adjusting to what motherhood means, because it's really wonderful and great, but it's a lot. Like sometimes you feel like your time is not your own, or any time is not your own. The middle of the night, early in the morning, in the afternoon, you just never know when your kids are going to need you, and when they need you, you just have to drop everything for them. And so that was for sure an adjustment too.
Okay. Who helped you the most, and how did that happen?
So probably with my younger kids, I had the most help from Brad. So our kids, we have 6, And we had the first 4, and then we thought we were done. And then 7 years later, we got a surprise, our little Oliver. And then a couple years later, we decided we didn't want him to be alone there at the end, so we had another one. And so it's almost like we had 2 different families, the first 4 and then the last 2. And so with the last 2, my biggest help was my older kids. They were teenagers. The oldest 2 were teenagers. They were super helpful. Even the younger 2 were in elementary school, and they were all just like so helpful. So in some ways it was busier because I had a lot of kids, but in other ways it was easier because once the kids all got home from school, if I needed to do something, I'd be like, hold the baby, and they all wanted to. They all just like loved and adored him. So yeah, the first, my biggest help was probably my husband, and like I said, the friends we had, they all had kids too, so we all just tried to help each other. With my younger kids, it was my older kids that were the biggest help.
Okay. Could you talk about your family dynamic?
My family dynamic. Yeah, like I said, there's 8 of us, 6 kids. It's a little bit of a different dynamic than most people have, I think, because there is a 19-year gap between the oldest and the youngest. So our oldest was literally moved out and went to college when we had the youngest. And so in some ways it does feel a little bit like 2 families, but also they're all very close. Like right now, my oldest 3 are in college, and they all are in the same town or the next town over. So we still get to see them a lot and interact together. And it's interesting you talk about dynamic because Audrey, our oldest, is like super tough, and she's used to being in charge, and she says it like it is, and she'll be like, this, and everyone will just do it. Like she's the boss. And then our second, Tyler, he's like the total fun maker. Like he's the one that's constantly getting people to like play games and to be active and to do stuff. And he never is boring. He's always making everybody have fun. And it's great. It's wonderful. When he was gone on his mission for 2 years, it was less fun. And then my third, Grace, she's just the sweetest. She is always helping and playing with the younger kids. She still has a lot of like imagination and creativity, and she is kind and compassionate, and she's very quiet, but she's very helpful and has always been the first person to get up and help when I need help. And then my fourth one, Britton, she's the worrier. She's the one that makes sure that everything's taken care of, but she also worries about making sure everybody is close and feels loved. And then we have Oliver, who is just like a ball of energy and emotion. He's 9, and he's just always up for doing something social and playing a game. And with Oliver, we always say the highs are high and the lows are low, but luckily there's more highs than lows. And then there's little Helena. We joke that she's just like the oldest one, only the mini version, because she also likes to be the boss and tell everyone what to do, and everybody just kind of lets her. And then Brad and I cook for everyone. That's what I do. I just try to make sure everybody always feels loved through food. And Brad is just like a great listener and is always there to help and support, but he's more quiet and likes to be in the background. Does that answer the question?
Yes. What would you say is the greatest joy of being a mother?
The greatest joy of being a mother. It's hard because there's a lot of them. Probably the biggest joy you feel is when your kids accomplish something that you know was hard for them or that they worked really hard at. You just feel like so proud, especially because you've watched them go through the hard parts that come before accomplishing the thing, and you see them struggle, and it's hard to see that. So then when they triumph, it feels even better. Also, the greatest joy is the first time you ever hold your baby in the hospital. There's no feeling like that in the whole entire world that can compare to how wonderful that is.
I've noticed that you've had a lot of kids over the years, and do you feel like motherhood has changed from when you first had your oldest to now when you have your youngest?
Yes. Yes. There's certain things. Technology has changed parenting so much. Like when we had our first two, the only way they could watch a show was if the show was actually on TV or if we had a videotape or a CD. I don't think we even had CD. There were CDs, we just didn't have them. We just had a VCR because we were very poor. And then with our next two, there started to be more of the streaming to where you could like pick a show when you wanted to. But even with our next two, we didn't have smartphones yet. And so with my last two, they are living in the world of smartphones and streaming and iPads and everything's on demand. And so honestly, that's like a huge challenge as a parent is keeping your kids with a healthy amount of the screen time and knowing how unhealthy a lot of that screen time is for their developing brains and just trying, but also knowing it's part of the world we live in. And so just trying to like keep that balance for them. So it's very, very different. Just ignore it. Go ahead.
Is there anything else you would like to discuss?
Is that my last question? Yeah. Can you get it? Yeah. Just that being a parent is really great and really wonderful. And sometimes I feel like the world is trying to say it's not. And I wish there were more ways as mothers for us to say how great being a mother is and how it's tiring and it's hard on your body being pregnant 6 times and having 6 kids and not being able to sleep very much. But like the wonderful moments, nothing can compare to them. Like nothing I've ever experienced has been able to compare to that, but you can't explain that to someone. And so it's really hard to say, you want to say to people, you just have to do it to understand it, but it's a huge commitment. You know, you have that first kid and you're like locked in for at least 18 years. And so I wish the world would really not appreciate mothers, but appreciate how wonderful it is to be a parent, because I feel like the world doesn't celebrate that as much as it should. And it's like as moms, we're not sitting there looking for credit or accolades or whatever. You're just looking for like wanting people to know the feelings that you have from doing it all, if that makes sense. What other questions do you have for me? Who's my favorite kid?
Do you feel like that you have done a good job of being a mother?
You know, I do. I actually do, because you're never going to do it perfect. Mm-hmm. And so as long as you let go of that, and as long as you know how much you love your kids, like you can always go back and pick yourself apart and see all the things that you've done wrong. Like it's super easy to do that. But if you do that, you just kind of like, you just destroy yourself for no reason, you know? I remember reading a book once about this girl that was a single mother, and she's really struggling, and she had to like leave her child in like some not amazing situations. Like she was safe, but not what she wanted. But in the book, you could tell how much, like the author wrote it so well, you could tell how much this mother loved her child. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that and thinking, okay, even if you can't be exactly the mother you want to be, if I love my kids as much as this woman loves hers, I'm doing a good job. Because she, even though she wasn't leaving her kid in the best situation, she was still like a wonderful mother, and her kids still knew that she was like totally loved. And so I've just always looked at that and been like, I just need to like love the heck out of my kids and do the best I can, and not worry about the rest. And so if that's my litmus test, then I would say, yeah, I think I have been a good mother. So yeah.
I think that you've done a good job as mother too.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's all the questions that we have. Once again, thank you for participating in this interview, and we're done.
Thank you.